If nothing else, Donald Trump's first week in the White House was a busy one. Welcome to America Uncovered. I'm Chris Chappell. They say the pen is mightier than the sword, but why not wield both pen and sword? Trump's combo is so powerful that it even turned robot lizard man Mark Zuckerberg human for once. I guess he is warm-blooded. I've already covered a good chunk of Trump's first day in office and a bit of the things he did throughout the week. But because his first week has basically a decade's worth of content, here's an in-depth look at the top 5 things that happened. Number 5, illegal immigrants. Immediately on Trump's inauguration day, appointments made via the Customs and Border Protection One app that Biden used to allow migrants in was shut down. The mainstream media was quick to latch on to footage of migrants crying over this. But this isn't 2016. People are fed up with mass illegal immigration, and it's one of the big reasons why Trump won the 2024 election. That and the DNC replacing a potentially senile Biden without an election with a candidate who was about as popular as a fart in an airplane. To keep up with his promises, Trump signed an executive order ending birthright citizenship for children of illegal immigrants by February 19th this year. But a U.S. district judge in Seattle temporarily blocked his order for 14 days, claiming that it's blatantly unconstitutional. Many point to the first part of the 14th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution to justify U.S. citizenship for children of illegal immigrants, claiming it's clear as day. But critics point out the second part, and subject to the jurisdiction thereof, which muddies the waters. They argue that children of illegal immigrants aren't subject to U.S. jurisdiction and thus aren't entitled to birthright citizenship. They say Trump isn't rewriting the 14th Amendment, but simply applying the law as is. We'll just have to wait and see how this plays out in the courts. In the meantime, ICE raids are happening all across the country. They can now even do them in sensitive areas once considered off-limits, including churches, schools, and medical facilities. And they weren't kidding. By last Thursday, more than 1,300 were arrested, with over 1,000 of those having criminal records. This is likely only going to increase, especially with Trump ramping up border security. However, Trump's border czar, Tom Homan, notes that he's being realistic and that his deportation plan depends on Congress providing more funds to deport more. Whether you agree with Homan's plans or not, you got to admit it's nice having a border czar who's being a realist for a change. This leads us to number 4. Colombia FAFO. Trump's deportations are ruffling some feathers with domestic pro-illegal migrant advocates. They're also causing friction with foreign countries, including Colombia. Earlier this past Sunday, Colombian President Gustavo Petro rejected Trump's deportation flights, leading to a U.S.-Colombian tariff standoff. Petro argued that this is because migrants being sent on military planes are being treated like criminals without dignity, even though the migrants he talked about violated U.S. immigration laws in the first place. In a post on Truth Social, Trump said he would impose 25% tariffs that would raise to 50% travel bans and revocations for government officials, visa sanctions for party members, increased customs and border scrutiny and sanctions. In other words, F around and find out. And yes, Trump seriously posted this on social media. That's my president. Petro hit back with tariffs on U.S. goods, but it seems he blinked first because within the same day, the Colombian government agreed to all of President Trump's terms. Petro even retweeted this White House post. He even said on X that he accepted repatriation flights with dignity. Truly, troll memes have power. Number 3, DEI. Trump is completely nuking DEI. That acronym might as well stand for now, Donald's Ending Inclusivity. He's shut down federal DEI offices and put U.S. government diversity staff on paid leave. Yes, paid leave. So few jobs actually get that. This feels like less of a you're fired and more like a you're welcome. On top of that, Trump also signed an executive order that, among many other things, rescinded President Lyndon B. Johnson's civil rights era executive order requiring affirmative action for federal contractors. This is a huge shift from 2015, when Trump said he was fine with affirmative action, noting we've lived with it for a long time. Critics like the National Employment Law Project say this is an attempt to go back to the days when people of color, women, and other people were marginalized. But proponents for these moves say this was long overdue since these kinds of policies promote divisiveness and racism at the expense of merit, which is ridiculous. How else are black and brown people supposed to succeed unless you lower standards for them? That totally doesn't sound racist, right? But despite Trump's orders to dismantle DEI, many are still working to preserve the things that make DEI what it is. They've already changed their job titles from DEI officer to other nondescript titles. But you know what they say, a rose by any other color should be hired as long as that rose isn't white. But it's not just the government. Academia is also doing the same thing, giving new names to DEI offices, such as Office of Collaboration or Office of Access and Engagement, which sounds less like DEI and more like ways to grow your YouTube channel. The U.S. government is well aware of this, which is why federal employees were emailed instructing them to name colleagues who work in DEI roles and try to disguise DEI programs. So they're basically asking them to snitch. And as you know, snitches get stitches, because these jobs come with health care. But DEI employees aren't the only ones getting knocked down. Number 2, inspector generals. Always check your emails before you sleep, because who knows? Perhaps you'll be fired and you won't know it until you wake up for work. That's a lesson 17 inspectors general learned last Friday, which is brutal because that means they didn't have to set their alarm for 6 a.m. These are the people who act as watchdogs against federal agency waste, fraud, abuse, and misconduct. While the president can fire them, he's supposed to first communicate that to Congress 30 days in advance with a detailed explanation. But Congress never received any such notice from Trump. As you imagine, Democrats weren't too pleased. I feel like that will be the message of the next 4 years. House Democratic ranking members sent a letter demanding Trump comply with the law, saying Trump's actions violate the law, attack our democracy, and undermine the safety of the American people. Democrats say this is all about dismantling checks on his power and paving the way for widespread corruption. They're calling this a chilling purge. Republicans, meanwhile, have mixed feelings. Many believe that many inspectors general should be replaced, but only through the normal procedure. At a minimum, they want to know the explanation. Which is strange because if their job was to eliminate waste, fraud, abuse, and misconduct in government, then the bigger explanation would be how they weren't fired sooner. Others are all for it, to clean house. Senator Mike Lee argues it'd be crazy not to do this. Presidents should be able to fire every person in the executive branch other than the VP. Many argue that Trump was actually getting rid of Biden-appointed officials who aren't actually doing their job, but are protecting the deep state and the Biden crime family. Though, according to the Washington Post, many of those dismissed Friday were Republicans or Trump appointees from his first term. As of this recording, Trump hasn't announced who'd be acting as successors. Welcome back to life under Trump. It's fast and loose, and more unbuckled than the pants on Vin Diesel in a drag race. Finally, number 1, third-term presidency. We've had Trump drama for a decade now, with 4 more years on the way. Can you imagine an additional 4 on top of that? Trump drama would be old enough to vote. Republican Representative Andy Ogles is proposing amending the 22nd Amendment to change the presidential term limit from 2 to 3. The thing is, Ogles' amendment is oddly specific. It would only allow a president to serve a 3rd term if the first 2 terms were non-consecutive. In other words, those who served for 8 years in a row, like President Bill Clinton, George W. Bush, and Barack Obama, wouldn't be able to run again for the presidency. It's pretty obvious why the bill was written this way. Ogles says Trump is the only figure in modern history capable of reversing our nation's decay and restoring America to greatness, and he must be given the time necessary to accomplish that goal. I'm surprised anyone was able to understand what he was saying with his lips so firmly planted on Trump's backside. Of course, the chances of that actually happening is a long shot. For such an amendment to pass, Ogles' bill would need a 2/3 vote in both chambers of Congress and be ratified by 38 states to be added to the Constitution. Republicans only hold 220 out of 435 House seats and 53 out of 100 Senate seats, plus 28 state legislators out of 50, so not enough. Also, keep in mind that Trump's 78 right now. He'll turn 82 by the end of his 2nd term. Can you imagine an 86-year-old Trump as president? You'd have to strap him to the golden throne to keep him alive. Then he really would be the God Emperor. Quick, give him the Emperor's sword. Only he can lead his people to the cosmos. For MAGA-fest destiny, the Emperor protects. Now that was just a skim of the past week. I didn't even go into things like Trump withdrawing the U.S. from the World Health Organization or the Paris Climate Agreement. So what do you think? What did you think was the most important thing that happened this week? Let me know in the comments below. And in my ongoing attempt to talk about things YouTube considers too controversial by hiding them in gaming content, while modern audiences crave girl bosses, sometimes a boy just needs to save a damsel in distress. Check out this episode about one of my favorite games, Eco, and what it says about the hero's journey. Click here and let me know what you think. Once again, I'm Chris Chappell. Thank you for watching America Uncovered.